In the good old days, this doesn't happen because they used to treat them very, very rough. And when they protested once, they would not do it again so easily.
Here's another vision. You know, we want to take the world in a new direction. Let's write the future that we want the world to be.
We know what it looks like if we don't try. Let's see what it looks like if we do. My name is Chris number 2.
My name is Just Insane.
We play in a band called Anti-Flag. We have a brand new record, 2020 Vision. It comes out January 17th. And we are beyond excited to share these stories and share these songs. And it's an album about the future. It's an album about us having the paper, having the pen, having the ability to recognize that another world is possible and truly dictate and write down what our new future can be. "2020 Vision" is certainly about the immediacy of right now. We're talking about the false populism of Donald Trump, the false populism of the Brexit movement, Boris Johnson in the UK, the fact that people are using refugees and immigrants as a scapegoat to prop up neo-fascist movements like the AfD in Germany, or the neoliberalist movements of Macron in France. So I think that lyrically it's a little bit heavy. It's the politics and the messaging of it are about the things that weigh on us and the politics that when you're an empathetic person, when you're a person who cares about more than just yourself, can kind of push you down and make you feel that we're losing in the fight for social and economic and racial justice. But this idea of 2020 Vision that the record circles around, it's maybe a specific American reference. When you have 2020 vision, you see perfectly. Like, you don't need to wear glasses. You don't need to wear anything to correct your eyesight. You have clear vision.
Is perfect. Yeah.
And that kind of goes into, what the politics of these neo-fascist leaders that are gaining power around the world are doing, and specifically Donald Trump is doing, where it's lie all the time, and we need to see through the lie, and we need to have clarity.
Smoke screen. It's meant to blur your vision in a way. We definitely want people to have clarity and push away the noise, push away the lies, and actually see it for what it is. Because Donald Trump, he gives explanations as to why his administration is taking children away from their parents at the border and putting them in cages and putting them in prisons. And what we're saying is, look, there is no justification that makes that all right. Just pushing that smokescreen aside. When Donald Trump says global warming isn't happening and that global climate change isn't a problem, we're saying, look, there are scientists that say this is absolutely a problem, something that we need to deal with. So, there are so many kind of explanations and excuses that neo-fascist leaders or figureheads will give to justify inhumane policy and inhumane acts. And we're saying to people, we have to push those things aside because those things are not excusable. Definitely the listener can decide for themselves, but it is an important idea that we are trying to convey with the record, and one of many, of course, know.
I think that the interesting thing about art and all art, whether it's poetry, whether it's painting, whether it's music, the writer has an intention, or the creator has an intention whenever they do it, unless it's abstract or whatever, but there's still something inside you that makes you do that work to get to the place where you feel like it is worthy of being shared with others. So we have an intention with the songs on the album. We can't control the subconscious of us that comes out in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are many songs in our band's life where we thought we were writing about one thing, and then 10 years later realize, oh shit, in my mind, this was happening at home, this was happening at work, this was happening at school. These things influenced me beyond what I could see in that moment. So that will lead to people interacting with songs in a different way. For example, the idea of 2020 vision. When I brought it in and said, hey guys, I think we should call the record this, I think we should release in January, I think that we put Donald Trump on the cover, like everything was kind of thought out. Justin's reaction to what the message of it was completely different than what I had set out. So even within ourselves, we have different ideas of what it means. I think that we are all ending up in the same place, and it's this ongoing battle for equity for all people, but the path you take to get there might be different. We unfortunately get in trouble a good bit because of it. I mean, simple things like crossing the border from Canada to the States. Mm-hmm. Our equipment will get dragged out into the street and will get searched heavily because somebody doesn't like that our band name is Anti-Flag.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like when you cross the border, especially going back into the U.S., you realize very quickly that just the name Anti-Flag is a political statement all by itself. Because, I mean, when a border guard says to you, so is that anti the American flag, you know? And we're like, well, it's anti all flags. We want to do away with artificial constructs of nationalism. And, you know, like the Virtue said, the next thing you know, you're being searched, you're being held. We haven't had a specific example where we were told, you know, where somebody, I think, tried to stop us from playing a show because we were called Anti-Flag. And in that respect, you know, we haven't run into that kind of thing. Well, but we have had promoters who felt uncomfortable because of it, and therefore said, I don't think I can go ahead and do this.
Not even just, I mean, like there's promoters, there's people that work at the venue, and, you know, if we hang our banner's an upside down flag, and the people that are there to help us facilitate that, they don't want to do it, or they want to pick a fight with us or pick a fight with one of the guys in the crew. You know, this doesn't happen very often now because I think the internet has given a platform to people to do that troll thing and fucking spew their vitriol in the safety and the
in a different way.
But you know, Nazis would come out to the shows and pick fights with people. I mean, there was violence all around. I mean, there were instances when we needed to call police because there was violence, and then the cops didn't want to fucking do anything with us too. So I mean, we get into trouble, as you say, in different ways. I don't think there's a specific instance where the U.S. government or someone in power tried to stop us from doing what we're doing.
Exactly, and that's what I was getting at. There hasn't been like that kind of censorship, but there's been censorship by private entities. And of course, after 9/11, being a band called Anti-Flag was very hard. And
we're banned from the radio that doesn't play us. They're like, after 9/11, there was a list of songs and artists who were banned from the radio in America, and we were on the list, even though we had never had a single song on the radio. So much has changed just from doing tours where you had to print out maps how to get to the show, and now
or you know, if you're lost, stop at a payphone and call the promoter to try to figure out where you're at and how to get to where you're going.
I mean, that's just the basic technological side of it that's changed. So much has changed in how we make records now, how quickly we're able to do that, and
the technology behind it.
But essentially, punk rock is exactly in the same place that it was when we started. Our intention isn't any different. We want to be a band that speaks to issues of empowerment for people. We want to be a band that stands against war. We want people to interact with our music in the punk rock community and scene and know that they're not alone. These things are the same that they were in 1993 when the band started, and now going into 2020 when we started.
Yeah, and the idea that the band has always been trying to create a community and a place for people who feel like they are alone or that they are being persecuted, and reach out to them and let them know that there is a community that has empathy and people who are willing to support and stand up for people who feel isolated or who are being scapegoated. And yeah, that really never changed, which is, amazing over all that time. It's interesting too, though, like there are I think that mainstream culture in some ways has caught up to where punk rock was 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Like it was really interesting, like even in our hometown, like racism 25 years ago in our hometown was, I wouldn't say it was generally accepted, but it was accepted to a certain degree. And in the punk scene, the punk scene was like, no homophobia, no racism, no sexism. And I think that it's really interesting in the art community and subculture how things that were
societal norms.
Yeah, like the subculture has been pushing against society, and society's caught up in a lot of those ways, which is exciting. I think it's progress.
And then just on the band side, we're better. You don't do something for 25 years and not start to figure it out. So
right.
I feel like we're a better live band than we've ever been. I feel like we're better songwriters than we've ever been, and that just comes with work and practice, and even just the idea of a band playing and being on tour for 6-7 months every year for 25 years. You're going to get better at your instruments. So I think that when we started, our intention was never to be in Berlin talking to you. Our intention was to maybe play a show in Cleveland, which is a city 2 hours away from Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And then from when we played Cleveland, our intention was, can we get to New York? And then we're in New York. Wouldn't it be cool if we played in LA? And you just keep growing, and you keep realizing that the world and these cities and these places have the same type of people that we had in Pittsburgh. It was people who believed that eradicating racism and sexism and homophobia and bigotry from their lives was paramount. And they used this community of punk rock to achieve that moment, even if it was just for a couple hours where that didn't exist. But when you went to school the next day, you had to deal with racist pieces of shit. Or when you went to work the next day, you had to deal with a boss who is a fucking asshole. To have that sanctity and that community, we found very quickly that was a global feeling, and it transcended language barriers, it transcended geographical barriers, and it's changed the definition of what Anti-Flag is to us. Well, I think that we've got two paths. We've got one that's laid out in front of us, that it's the status quo of neo-fascism and globalism, and we can stay on this train, or we can derail it and become more egalitarian in a society that takes care of the poor, takes care of the sick, takes care of the tired. I think that I know what happens if we stand on the sidelines. Nothing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because we do want to see a world that is full of empathy, and that is more egalitarian, and that is just. We want to see in America, for example, we want to see that there's actually a legal system that creates justice, and that all people have a equal chance whenever they're pulled into that system. And it is absolutely true when you look at the rise of neo-fascism in the world. If you just sit on the sidelines, that's what they want. Yeah. I mean, if you become cynical about Donald Trump, then and you give up, that's what he wants. So it is important to stay engaged and to get involved, because if you want the world to change, you're gonna have to at some point stand up and be counted. And for us to make a record at this time, that's why we felt like it was necessary to do that. Like we didn't feel like we could wait based on what is happening right now in the world. We felt like it's time to stand up and say to people, what we're seeing is wrong. Here's another vision. We want to take the world in a new direction. Let's write the future that we want the world to be.
We know what it looks like if we don't try. Let's see what it looks like if we do. The song that I like the most changes all the time. It changes just in the sense that I, play it for somebody and they go like, oh, this line really connected with me. And then I go, oh shit, I didn't even think about that, But I think that the song 2020 Vision is a great synopsis for the album and for that thing that we just talked about, what we want the future to look like. And so I think it's an important song on the record.
Yeah, and like the song that for me that I really wanted people to hear was Christian Nationalist, and the reason being that I believed that the song would be like a sign to people who feel like they're being persecuted and that they're being scapegoated. It would be a signal to them that there are people out there, like 4 white guys from Pittsburgh, we actually care, and that they have allies, and that we want to have solidarity with them, and that we're willing to stand with them in a time of need. And we don't want to speak for them, but I just want them to know that they're not alone. And I guess when you ask about what I want to see in the future, I don't believe that the struggle is ever over. We can push back and we can make things much better, but the minute we stop pushing back, it comes back, the negativity and the ugliness comes back in. So we can't ever push back. These problems will always be there, but as long as people who are being persecuted know that they have allies, I think that's what's important.